Hi guys, so Top Gear, apparently it has been rested for the foreseeable future. In other words, it's over. Is it really over? Is that the end of it? How do we feel about Top Gear? How has it been? Do we think it'll come back? Should it come back? Let's talk about all this right after, you know what?
A brown car guy. Brown car guy.
Right then, so those of you that have been following what's been happening with Top Gear might know that one of its stars, Freddie Flintoff, suffered a huge accident and some substantial facial injuries. He has been seen since then, so he seems to be on the road to recovery, thank God. But ever since that, they stopped filming and they pretty much haven't gone back to filming. So there were a lot of rumors about what is exactly happening, what's going to happen to Top Gear. And sure enough, it's now been announced by the BBC that they will be resting it for the foreseeable future. Interesting terminology, that, resting it. So I mean, ostensibly I suppose what that means, what they're trying to say, is that we're not killing it, we're just pausing it. And this wouldn't be a first time. Remember in 1999 it paused for about 2-3 years before it came back, I think in 2002. So it wouldn't be the first time something like that has happened. But the question is, should it come back? You know, is there still a place for Top Gear? Well, we'll come back to that, but let's go back to the early days of Top Gear. I mean, I have been watching it for a very, very long time. Actually, to be honest, I haven't been watching it so much recently as I did when I was a kid. And I remember the way back, and this thing started in 1977. Angela Rippon, who you may know because she was just on Strictly Come Dancing recently, and a famous news presenter as well, and a Come Dancing presenter, but she was also one of the if not one of the original presenters of Top Gear. So she was, yeah, she was a presenter on Top Gear, one of the female pioneers, along with Sue Baker, who I recently, well, she passed away sadly, not so long ago, and I did do an interview with her as well. And of course, the legend who is William Woolard. In fact, so famous is William Woolard that the standard pose of standing next to your car, putting your foot on the bumper or the tire, is now known as Woolarding, because that was kind of his standard pose that he used to do. So you remember Chris Gothi, and even Noel Edmonds. Noel Edmonds used to be on it. I once actually saw Noel Edmonds at, I think it was at Earl's Court Motor Show. And if I remember correctly, and I think I was on the upper level, and I was just looking down, and I was looking down, and I turned to my right, and he was standing there with a paper in his hand, and he was basically rehearsing his lines. And part of me wanted to immediately speak to him, but the other part of me thought, oh, he's busy working, I better not disturb him. Also, I was a bit shy back then, so so I didn't disturb him. But I was literally he was right there, you know, and I knew that he was filming for Top Gear because that was clearly obvious, you know. I had also seen people like Clarkson a couple of times actually at shows filming. I've got photos of him, which I have put up on my Facebook in the past. So, you know, I've been watching the days of William Woolard, were fantastic, to be honest, fantastic. But then it was a very niche consumer motoring, authoritative, credible, information-packed, consumer-friendly motoring show. Then of course this started to transition with the arrival of Clarkson, who actually did join in that era. And then on board came people like Tiff Needell, Quentin Wilson, Vicky Butler Henderson, and then it kind of really took off. And to be honest, I really liked that era. I really missed that era because I thought there was an incredible dynamic even then. And I think the show became about dynamics, didn't it? It became about the interactions between what were car people, you know, because these were all car people. And I guess this is where it differed slightly to maybe the early iterations, which were a little bit more reporting, you know. But when you came to people like Tiff Needell, who was a racing driver, Vicky Butler Henderson, and, you know, people like that. And who was the short guy who did all the rally stuff? Was it Tony? I can't remember right now. I'll probably put it on the screen, or correct me in the comments. Was Tony Mason, was it? Anyway, so they were proper car people, and you just loved it. And they told real car stories but there was quite a variety of different kind of content, and they were still doing proper car reviews as well as of course they were doing motorsport stuff and information stuff and interesting stories and stuff like that, but they still did actual car reviews, you know. And this is what actually made Clarkson famous. Everybody remembers his famous, was it Vauxhall Cavalier review that he did that absolutely demolished that car, and then there was the Chrysler Crossfire. He killed the sales of that car overnight. Hey, he was something of a legend. But then of course it went on a hiatus for some reason, and a lot of the guys, they decamped and they went over to fifth gear, pulling power, shows like that, you know. But after a few years it came back, and this time it came back with Clarkson, and Clarkson brought along, I don't know if he brought along, but Clarkson was joined by Richard Hammond, and there was another bloke, can't remember his name right now, but he was supposed to handle the used car stuff and what have you. And I'm sure you'll tell me in the comments, or I can put it on the screen, whatever. But the funny thing is that at the time that happened, I was transitioning between Parker's guides. I launched the Parker's website. I was in 2000, so 2001, 2002, probably when that show came back. Dawson, his name was Dawson, I think, wasn't it? Anyway, when the show came back, I was at a magazine called Used Car Buyer. So for quite a few years, I'd been completely immersed in the world of used cars. So we'd watch the program on Sunday, we'd come into the office on Monday, and we'd just lambast him for being completely and totally inaccurate and wrong, and we just would take the mickey out of him. And sure, because we just thought he just wasn't credible. And sure enough, I think after just one season he left, and also like he didn't really have the chemistry and engagement with Clarkson and Hammond. So then along comes James May. Now James May, the thing about James May was this was his second bite of the cherry, because he actually did join Top Gear before. He was an ex-car magazine journalist, and in fact I may have even seen him when I was at Parker's. Car magazine was across the hall from us at the time. And so he was from there, and he had joined them previously. I think he had joined them when Clarkson had left the first time. When he had left the show, he kind of had replaced him. Then the show didn't last very long. Then he went, and then in the second series of the revamped 2000s Top Gear, James May turns up with a kind of new persona, to be fair. And then of course the legend was born. The legend of those trio was born, and they just took it to the next level. I mean, let's be honest. They turned it into what was a niche program into a global sensation. Let's be absolutely fair to the guys and give them credit where credit is due. They turned it into a global franchise. Magazines all over the world, even in the Middle East, car shows, spin-off shows all over the world, including the Top Gear America, Top Gear wherever, you tell me. They were all over the place, yeah? And they turned it into a global sensation. But they did this by doing the big features, they pretty much, at that point they were still doing some car reviews, but they had cut them down. They were only doing like really cool car reviews, and they gone into doing big stunts, epic drives, big features, and that was part of its success. That was a big part of the ingredients of its success, that it had broadened the scope, made it international, and broadened the scope of its appeal. But of course the other thing was the dynamics between those three presenters, you know, the chemistry between them, the camaraderie between them, you know, that really kind of came across, you know. And to be honest, so many shows, including later iterations of Top Gear, have tried to replicate that, and to my mind completely failed. And even like the international editions completely failed. None of them have been able to quite get that. And the fact that that was key part of the success that made the show such a big success, so to speak, was the fact that when they did leave, when they were forced to leave, let's not get into why. Okay, Clarkson hit somebody. Clarkson's a controversial guy, let's be honest. But when they were forced to leave and they went off and they took up a show with Amazon, which is still kind of going at the moment, but it's sort of very sparse now. Then it was them three that went there, and then immediately that show became internationally successful, and that proved the fact that it was them. And they also proved the fact that it was the big stunts and the epic drives that they did by essentially ditching everything else. Eventually, I think like a few series later, I think 3 series later or something, they ditched pretty much all the studio ingredients, the review, the information, the news-based stuff. They ditched all of that, and they just went, okay, we're just going to do the cool drives. A, because they probably just wanted to, and B, because they knew that those were the things that really sort of caught people's attention and imagination. And so there we are. So this is what's happened. So Top Gear then, of course, like I said, has been trying, you know, then Chris Evans took it over, which just didn't work, because he tried to turn Top Gear into don't forget your Top Gear toothbrush sort of thing, and it just didn't kind of work, you know. Not to discredit him, because he's definitely a massive car guy, I mean, he owns one of the biggest collection of white Ferraris in the world. He was the guy behind, what is it, Carfest? I think that's his thing. So there's nothing to take away from him, but it just didn't work in the way that he tried to do it. And he had multiple presenters, multiple things were going on, from Sabine Smith to who was the guy that ran the Jordan Formula One team, him, loads of stuff going on. And of course he brought Chris Harris, Rory Reid. I really liked Rory Reid. I thought Rory Reid was hard done by in the first couple of series. I thought he just wasn't given his due, because I'd seen his YouTube stuff and I thought that he was really imaginative and clever and dynamic and just really fun, but it didn't really come across in the first couple of series. So I think he was treated a little bit unfairly. Chris Harris, of course, is well known, well respected, highly regarded, not just as a motoring journalist, but pretty much as a racing driver. Which, of course, the other issue with that was that it made the Stig pretty much redundant, because Chris Harris is essentially a racing driver. The whole point of the Stig, the reason that the Stig was introduced, which is one of the highlights of the Jeremy Clarkson era of Top Gear, was that they were like, okay, we're just three blokes messing around. We know how to drive, but you know, we're not professional racing drivers. So here's a professional racing driver that is damn fast. It's about as quick as you can get. And so he was like the standard bearer. Obviously, we know since then, you know, the various names that have come out, the people that have been the Stig. But that was the point of it. But when Chris Harris came along, he was pretty much as fast as the Stig. So it's like, okay, well, that's kind of redundant then. So, but anyway, the problem with that era Top Gear was that for me personally, I just couldn't get into it. It just was not longer working for me. You know, I would try. I would like always watch like the first episode of a new series, and then just not want to watch the rest. I would literally, that would be a painful watch, and I'd be like, I don't really watch this, and I never watched them again. And actually, I think the last couple of series, I didn't even watch the first episode. I just gave up with them altogether. So to me, I mean, I really should be kind of gutted. I should be really sad and gutted that Top Gear is essentially no more. But I'm not. I'm actually not. I'm really kind of lukewarm about it, because the fact that, you know, I had just lost interest in it anyway. And that's not because I've lost interest in cars, God forbid, but it's just that this show just wasn't working for me anymore. And part of it is that, of course, it doesn't do the reviews anymore. Part of it is the lost chemistry and interaction between those key presenters. And part of it is that, you know, they were just trying to go over the same ground over and over again, just trying to outdo themselves into bigger stunts and all the rest of it. You know, which is why, of course, then you had these kind of mishaps. And don't forget, you know, even, you know, Hammond had some major near catastrophic disasters himself. So the reality is that, you know, it just didn't work for me. Now, should it be brought back? And here again, you know, you need to look at what's been going on in the world of media, what's been going on in the world of automotive media and automotive video media, if you like, you know. And one of the key things you might say, and I lamented about this, you know, some time ago, I said, you know, Top Gear doesn't review cars anymore. There's nowhere on TV really where consumers can actually get a review of a car. So in that case, does that mean that there's a demand for it? Does that mean that there's time to bring that back? Well, no, I don't think so necessarily, because what's happened is that the people that want that sort of content have all moved online. You know, I do that. I do reviews, and the thing is, we can do this stuff faster, quicker. We can turn it. I mean, this video you're watching now, I recorded a few hours ago, right? So the trouble with TV, and TV technically has the capability of doing that, because of course if you look at news reporting, you know, they can be instantly on air, they can edit, package and put a thing out instantly. But when you have a TV show, then the trouble is that the amount of production, I mean, I've done TV in Dubai, I did reviews for TV there, and the amount of effort that they needed for a 15-minute review, 10-minute, 15-minute review, it literally was, we started filming at dawn, and we didn't end until there was no more light left, you know, and even then we would do some other bits, you know. It was intense, you know. It was very, very hard work, and then it was several weeks in editing, and then eventually it would go on TV. And the trouble with TV, especially if you have a show, then a show which is like series based, the problem is that then you have to wait for that slot. You know, you have to wait for that series with that time slot that comes out. So for example, if you review a car that's just come out, I could, you know, if I get on the launch, I could review that car, and assuming there's no embargo, I could put the review up that evening or the next day, right? That's how quickly I could turn it around. But if you're TV and you review the latest car, you've done it, you've got it in the bag, but then nobody will see it until your next broadcast day, you know, which could be like 6 months hence, by which time the whole rest of the world has reviewed the car. So that's why the car review thing, the car news show thing for TV is very, very difficult unless you're able to do it as like a current affairs show. So in that case you could do it, otherwise it would be very, very hard to do. Right, so then where are we? Do we want Top Gear back? Well, I mean, I suppose there'll always be a place for a TV show with the kind of budgets that TV shows have to do something that's epic and interesting. And I think one of the key things is one of the great things about those road trips was seeing motoring in other parts of the world. I think that the show failed a little bit in that it was focused only on the cars and the presenters, no matter where they were. So it was the same sort of thing. But whereas what I liked, and also I think that the iterations of Clarkson, Hammond and May, what they used to do for a while, was that they would do this. What they would do is they would actually show the local car culture. They would meet local car people in some of the episodes. And I think that, you know, and I myself have suggested this to a few people. I'd love to do a show, you know, which would show car culture around the world, you know, where you don't expect it to be, just to show that how enduring it is, how passionate people are, you know, how keen they are on their cars, how excited it makes them, you know, and what they get up to, modifying, drifting, racing, collecting classics, restoring, the level of work that goes on in parts of the world where you wouldn't expect it to, and what they're able to do and what they're able to achieve with very, very little. Compared to, say, for example, what we have here in the UK, what we're blessed with, you know, is extraordinary and well worth highlighting. And I'd love to be able to do something like that, guys. I'm available. But in terms of, so if any TV producers out there are listening, or anything else that is of that nature, that really brings the science, the technology, something that YouTubers can't do. Because if you're trying to do anything that YouTubers can do, and YouTubers can do a lot now. No, I'm not talking about me now. I'm talking about like some of the big YouTubers who essentially also have quite big budgets now, and they can do a lot. So, you know, and then you might say, well, the wheeler dealer type of thing is still there. It's still epic. Mike Brewer is still doing an amazing job with that. But also that formula has been used and used and used and used. So I mean, even that, and even in the world of YouTube, that formula has been used. So I think that there is scope. And you know, the epic drives, I think there's still scope for that. I think there's still scope for exploring cars around the world. I think there's still scope for looking at technology and the future of cars. You know, I think like a Tomorrow's World meets Top Gear sort of program that really, you know, explores what's coming could be quite interesting. I'd love to get involved in something like that. But basically the stuff that YouTubers couldn't quite do, they wouldn't have the access and the budgets and the reach to do. That would be extraordinary. But otherwise, honestly, Top Gear, I think it is time for it. You know, it's had its day. It was amazing. It will always have its place in history, and it might come back in some time. But I think for the time being, sleep well, my friend. Sleep well, my friend. It was good traveling with you. Take care, and I look forward to hearing your comments.
Brown car guy.
Hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please hit the like button and share this video as well if you can. And while you're at it, check out these guys who also sponsor my content. I am deeply grateful to them because it helps me to buy new equipment, put fuel in the cars, and yes, buy a cup of coffee. You can do the same. Just go here or right here on YouTube. Just hit these three little dots down here and click on thanks. Make sure you're signed in first. My content is free, but this is how you can help me keep it that way. I may even send you a gift. Oh, by the way, watch this next.